Hello, everyone. Welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're starting this road to 5K. We're less than, actually, a little more than 700 subscribers away from 5,000. The goal for this channel is to hit 5,000 by the end of this year, and I think we can do it, especially with all the support you guys have shown me in this channel. So make sure you share with a friend. We're going to try our best to hit 5,000 by the end of the year. That's our goal starting now, and I think we'll do it. But today we're going to talk about some coaching changes and the coaching carousel, and I guess what some of these teams might do next of who they might hire as their next coach. But first off, we have to start with the Chicago Fire. The Chicago Fire announced today that they were hiring Gregg Berhalter, the former USMNT manager and Columbus Crew manager. And not only was he going to be the be the manager, he was also named the director of football, replacing Frank Klopas, who was the 1 year, 1 year manager, the interim manager, technically, because he took over in 2023. They gave him the job in 2024, but I don't think a lot of people figured he would be in that position long term. And so they hired Gregg Berhalter. Now, I'm not a big fan of this move on the surface level because I think Gregg Berhalter has a lot of deficiencies as a manager, and the Chicago Fire have a lot of potential as a club. They're in the third biggest media market in the country. They have a rich passion for soccer in their city, and I feel like this is a club that's a sleeping giant if things were ran the correct way. I called them a poverty club earlier on Twitter, not just because they don't spend. They do spend more than the average MLS club or like the average MLS club, but there's more layers to it than just what you spend to be a poverty club. They're not very competitive. It's actually hard to believe, but they've only made the playoffs 2 of the last 15 years. And this is talking about a league where 18 of 29 teams make the playoffs, and to only make it 2 of the last 15 years is crazy. The last time they made it was in 2017 when Veljko Paunovic was their manager, and they had Bastian Schweinsteiger, they had Nikovic, they signed Dax McCarty, and that was a pretty competitive team, and they made the playoffs in 2017. But they signed Gregg Berhalter. We'll see what he's able to do and see what kind of players he's able to bring in. I would say that this is probably the biggest job that's open. Like I said, because of the market. If he makes the playoffs consistently, then you'd have to say that he's obviously an upgrade of, compared to previous managers. But I'm not necessarily sure he's going to be able to do that because this is a different league than it was in 2018 when he last coached in Major League Soccer. I do think that they probably will be able to make the playoffs, especially if they bring in the right players. But Gregg is going to have to do a good job of rebuilding his reputation because the last 2 years with the USMNT, he's definitely damaged his respect. There's a lot of question in his ability, especially with his players, because it seemed like his players were more like his friends than normal player coach relationship. So I don't know how I feel about this. And also, too, having the responsibility of also being the sporting director of football just adds more to his plate. And that really doesn't work in Major League Soccer or a lot of leagues because it's just too much work and responsibility. So maybe if they have someone that can kind of do the grunt work for him, maybe it'll work out. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that hire. St. Louis City SC, they fired Bradley Carnell earlier in the season after he had won the Western Conference in 2023 as an expansion team, winning the conference in the regular season, obviously not in the playoffs. And it kind of felt like he was a scapegoat after having a great season with a lackluster roster, to be honest with you. They overperformed expectations. He kind of got the boot a little quicker than most people thought he would have, and they replaced him with John Hackworth. Now it'll be interesting to see what they do with this position, see who they end up hiring. St. Louis City SC, regardless of who they hire, they're going to have to spend money in the wintertime. They can't wait until the summer like they did this year to make any add any reinforcements because that was detrimental to the team. Major League Soccer, you can't, and in most soccer leagues in general in the world, You can't roll out essentially the same team year in and year out without any type of improvements when everybody else around you is improving and expect to win and get the same results. So to Bradley Carnell's, to be fair to him, they really never gave him a chance with what they did this offseason. And they didn't even give him a chance to really fix things in the summertime. So I feel for Bradley Carnell. I think he's a good coach. And we'll mention a spot that I think he could land later in the video, another opening in Major League Soccer. The next one is Josh Wolff at Austin FC. Josh Wolff had an incredible season at Austin FC in 2022 with Driussi being the runner-up MVP. And the team looked like they were performing very well and that they were going to be, a consistent contender. And then the wheels just fell off in 2023. They got completely embarrassed in CONCACAF Champions Cup by a Haitian team. They got they got boat raced. And then they just struggled all year long. And then it carried over to this year. Now there were some spurts where you thought maybe they could contend for a playoff spot and get back to competing, but that just never really came to fruition. And they ended up making a move. A lot of fans, Austin FC fans, definitely wanted to move off of him even after last year's disastrous season. And they just Anthony Precourt decided to keep him and go with him into the 2024 season. So I'm curious to see who they will hire. They don't have an interim coach. I would like to see them hire outside of Major League Soccer, not an assistant coach, not someone with MLS ties. Go out there, get a coach who's got some international experience. Like maybe go after Miguel Herrera, El Piojo. I think that he could be a good manager, and a lot of people say he's washed, but I mean, I would take a washed El Piojo over 60% of Major League Soccer managers because of what he's done. He's coached the national team. He's won the championships in Liga MX. I mean, why would you not give him a chance? I think that he would be a great manager, and what do you have to lose? I think that he could be a great fit, especially in Texas and Austin. And we'll see what happens. I think that that's definitely a possibility. The next one is Luchi Gonzalez with San Jose. San Jose has been a cellar dweller for a long time, right? When they hired Matias Almeida a couple years back, I thought, man, this is a great hire. They're hiring a guy who's won the Champions League with two different teams in Liga MX. He has a great pedigree, helped River Plate get promoted in the Argentinian league. And I thought, man, this is a manager that would have been a great hire for a big name club like in the Galaxy and LAFC, etc. That would have been a great hire. So San Jose getting him kind of made me think, man, this is a positive sign for Major League Soccer that a club like San Jose would be able to land someone like him. And it never really worked out, and they moved on. And Luchi Gonzalez was the former manager of FC Dallas, and he kind of struggled there. He had a little bit of success, but nothing sustainable. And I was skeptical about the hire too. But this is a team that doesn't spend. Now, they did sign Hernan Lopez this offseason. He definitely has been an improvement and helped the team a little bit, but they're the worst team in the league. They got like 17 points. Maybe it's 21 now, but it's terrible. Like they're a very bad team. They really haven't been competitive all year long. So they make a change. They got Ian Russell as the interim manager. This team is going to have to reform completely if they want to compete. They're going to have to get a manager in here who knows how to win. They're going to have to get a manager. Hey, add Miguel Herrera to that list too. I would definitely consider hiring him, but I don't know if they're willing to spend what it would take to get him. But they're going to have to come and they're going to have to get a manager who is going to push this ownership group and try to get them to spend more, to give this team some help, because the fan base is checked out. The team doesn't win. They're on pace. They're going to win the wooden spoon. And it's just a shame because it used to be a relatively competitive team at one point. And it's just sad to see that the fan base has dwindled down so much. So it'll be interesting to see what San Jose does at that managerial position. Now, moving on to Nico Estevez, who took over for Luchi Gonzalez at FC Dallas. Now, Nico had a couple good seasons. A lot of injuries have derailed his success with Musa, Leggett, Ferreira, and Areola. Just so many injuries has just derailed this team. But at the end of the day, he still needed to perform, and he hasn't done that. So he got booted. And this is a team that I think is a sleeping giant. They have so much young talent and attacking talent that if they can get the right manager in there, that I think that they could be a force to be reckoned with. Now, they did promote as interim Peter Lushin, and it'll be interesting to see, if they give him a crack at being the manager. I doubt it. One of the names that I did hear that was interested in the job was Bradley Carnell, the former St. Louis City SC manager. I think that would be a good fit. We saw what he was able to do in St. Louis City SC with less, not less talent, but they weren't spending as much as other teams. They were like kind of moneyballing it, right? And I think that he would be a good manager for this team. Now, will they make a good hire like that? I don't know. It looks like the Hunts are definitely more invested in what they're doing. They spent a club record fee in Peter Musa this past offseason. So it looks like they're finally ready to invest in this team and trying to make them competitive to win. So they need a good manager who can elevate their team. Even when injuries do occur, they still have a chance to win these games when they have key players missing. So the coaching hire is going to be interesting. This is definitely one of the top jobs, I would say, available in Major League Soccer. It'll be interesting to see what happens with FC Dallas. Now, moving on to what might be the biggest job opening because of the investment the ownership group has shown to the team is Atlanta United. Gonzalo Pineda was a complete and utter disaster. He's the first coach, if I'm not mistaken, to lose 4 home games in a row at Atlanta United, which is completely unacceptable. That was a fortress, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, for Atlanta United for years. Teams dreaded playing there because of the atmosphere and 70,000 fans there to watch the games. Now it looks like they can barely get 7,000 fans because of all the players that they have they've sold. And Rob Valentino, this is his second stint as the interim manager for Atlanta United. I don't think he's going to get the job. What I've heard is Patrick Vieira is possibly the leader in the house, or the leader to get this job. Now that would be an interesting hire. I don't know how that will pan out. I mean, I don't think he'd be any worse than what Gonzalo Pineda has been. And I think that he could push this team to sign some players that can contribute and get the most out of his players. And obviously, with his resume as a player, and he had some success in MLS with New York City FC, I think he would demand a lot of respect. The players would respect him as a manager, and maybe he could come in here and turn things around. And as we've seen, Arthur Blank is definitely willing to spend money to help his team out. He's got 4 or 5 of the top 6 transfer fee records in Major League Soccer. So money has never been an issue to acquire talent for Atlanta United and Arthur Blank. And Garth Lagerwey was brought in here to be the team president or general manager. And he has been very good at building teams at RSL and Seattle, and even doing it maybe at like a more budget point, or trying to be not necessarily spending the most to get the best player, but trying to be creative with it. I mean, they have spent money in Seattle, but he's not necessarily just chasing the biggest fish. So it'll be interesting to see how they build this team. Now, Garth Lagerwey has never hired a manager. If you remember, Brian Schmetzer was already in place when he got there, or was the interim manager. He didn't hire him. So this will be his first true hire as a leader or manager of the team, general manager of the team. So he's being very careful in how he handles this and goes about this, and who he wants to hire. I would say Patrick Vieira is the leader in the house for that position. Now, the last one is Gary Smith at Nashville SC. Gary Smith had some pretty good success in Nashville SC, more than I thought he would, because I thought his tactics and his style of play was very MLS 1.0-esque. I didn't think it would translate well. Obviously, he won an MLS Cup with Colorado in 2010, but Major League Soccer is a completely different league than it was in 2010. And I didn't know that if it would translate well, because Nashville is trying to be a Moneyball team too. They're not spending big money on several players. They're doing it a different way. Now, obviously, when you have Hani Mukhtar, it makes it a lot easier to do certain things. But even that wore off towards the later part of his tenure. This year has been a complete disaster, and I thought Nashville would struggle, to be honest with you, just because they haven't invested or built the team in the light of, or the model that modern MLS successful teams build their teams. So I figured he would struggle. He did. They fired him. They hired BJ Callahan, the USMNT assistant coach, who had some great stints, especially when he himself was the interim manager of the USMNT when Berhalter had stepped away for a little bit before they rehired him. I think he is a good manager, and I will be interested to see what he can do in an offseason where he can bring some of his players in and build this thing out with Nashville SC. I think he will be a good manager, and I think that it's going to be successful in Nashville. And I don't know if they're going to win an MLS Cup, but with BJ, I think that they could possibly build something like Columbus or Cincinnati, something in that model, which is what a lot of the small market teams need to be. That needs to be the blueprint for small market teams, Columbus and Cincinnati. Now, here's the bonus one, right? This is a manager that I think could be fired or should be fired, and you guys have heard me say this a couple times. I think that Peter Vermes needs to go. He's been the manager at Sporting Kansas City and the technical director and every other title you could possibly have since 2009, and he has one MLS Cup. This is the second year in a row he's missed the playoffs in the new format, 18 to 29 teams, and that's just inexcusable that you miss the playoffs like that. And I think that the reason why Peter Vermes is really struggling is because he hasn't evolved with the times. He's got this old head mindset of what MLS used to be and how he thinks he can build it that and that model. But the league has changed and evolved so much. You have to be like I said, the Crew, the Cincinnati. That's the small club or small market team blueprint that you have to go for if you want to compete. Sporting Kansas City is doing it like it's MLS 1.0, and that's just not going to work anymore. Alan Pulido was a decent signing in 2020, but then the pandemic hit and it kind of derailed a couple of things, and it just kind of sidetracked that signing. And he's had some flashes, but he gets injured a lot. So that's not enough, though. They have to make some big signings. I think that that's the one only big signing they made in the Peter Vermes tenure. So I think they just need a breath of fresh air. I think they need a new voice in the room. And I would be shocked if Peter Vermes isn't fired by the end of the season. If he's not, I think Sporting Kansas City attendance and interest is going to be an all-time low. I really just don't see how he keeps his job. I mean, 15 years with one MLS Cup and back-to-back MLS Cup playoff misses is just unacceptable in this league, especially with how long he's been in this league. So I would say that he's definitely out the door at the end of the season with him missing the playoffs for the second time in a row. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about these job openings and these replacements, and who do you think is going to, the most attractive job? Who's your favorite hire thus far? Do you think Peter Vermes is going to be fired? I mean, I think he's good as gone, especially with these last two poor seasons. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We got 2 weeks until decision day, or it's like a little like less 11 days until the decision day, and then we might have some more coaching changes. But I wanted to update you guys on what's going on right now because there has been so many coaching changes this season. So it's going to be interesting to follow and see what happens. I'm excited to see what happens after the playoffs and see who else might be fired. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Like I said, who are you surprised that's been fired so far? Which job is most desirable to you, and who is next? Also, guys, make sure you like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Remember, we're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. And until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.